So I strongly believe that working harder reduces research quality in most of academic research. And this is the most prominent advice that you'll often hear. I would say that 95% of the people that you talk to either A will tell you like that's the best advice is to work harder, or B, they will do some sort of humble brag type thing about how hard they work or did late nights or work on weekends or all of the nonsense that you often hear. And it's always kind of like this weird humble brag that makes you feel like leaving that situation makes you feel really like terrible, right? Like this is really common. Um, and I think it's the absolute worst advice, often filled with anxiety, often filled with insecurity that just is completely deleterious of everything that you would do in the research game. So, let's sort of break it down from on an individual basis. If you work late, you work on weekends, what does that do for you? That often leaves you extraordinarily burnt out. You could probably do it for a month, 2 months of doing that, until you start feeling very, very burnt out. You start feeling completely demotivated. You realize that you have many other obligations outside of your life. And, the most likely scenario, at least in my situations, you end up with an injury. And I mean, not like a mental injury, like you're going and taking antidepressants and things like that, which is that's going to happen. I'm going to tell you that it's going to happen if you have that mentality. Um, but it's actually going to be a physical injury. You're going to pull a muscle. You're going to hurt yourself. There's going to be something that is going to happen that is going to be very, very painful for you, physically painful. Every single time that I have done that kind of stint, it has been very harmful for me. Very, very harmful. Um, Now, what does that do for, the culture of where you're at, your lab, your department? That breeds a whole bunch of anxiety. It breeds a whole bunch of moments where people are feeling um, that they're behind, that there are problems, that they are um, honestly just not doing the right thing. Now, I have a caveat here, though, right? If you are in a culture where everybody is there and they're working late nights, it's actually really fun. My undergraduate experience, there was a lot of people that actually did do that. Not all of the time, but we would work pretty long. Um, but I also was probably on the extreme of working too long and working all of the time in that moment, which resulted in a lot of moments where it wasn't great. Uh, where I would work until 10 every night, right? Like that was, and I mean like very regularly. I'm not saying like I would just do that, once in a while. No, I was putting in after school like 5 hours a night, but I could only sustain that for a little bit of time. And it was harmful for me in the long run. Now, those moments where there are people around and it's kind of a fun experience, that's slightly different, but that's not what's going to happen in graduate school. That's not what's going to happen for the rest of your life. There's going to be very few people around. You will be alone and it will be dark outside. Um, and it will feel like you're alone, you're the only one that's working and it's dark outside because, there's been moments. I'm not proud of them. I think it was harmful for me, but there's been moments. Um, so, what does that do to the culture that just kinda just makes things just kind of really horrible, right? Like, it doesn't make for a fun culture. It's often overworking. There's a lot of anxiety, a lot of sort of tension that often happens. Um, and I would just never recommend it. Now, what is the alternative that actually does work? Putting a little bit of time on whatever your schedule is that you can do, right? Whether it's 5 days a week, it's totally helpful and totally healthy, totally normal. You're doing the right thing. Or 6 days a week, maybe, totally helpful. Maybe you can do that kind of stuff for yourself. I often can't. Um, it's just not going to happen because I've got other obligations that get in the way that are more important, frankly, much more important. Um, but what's going to happen and do little bits at a time, right? Like not everything all at once. And what's going to happen is those little bits are going to compound. Um, what I tend to do when I work really hard and do those kind of like, I'm going to just work forever, I spiral out of control. I go in the wrong direction. And I end up wasting a tremendous amount of resources and time and effort. And you're going to realize, like, when you do that, you've wasted a bunch of resources. But if I continuously get feedback, iterative feedback, and self-correct, or have some help, often that really, really, really helps. And you can get that guidance and you can start making traction in a certain direction. Now, that only works if you're being encouraged to do so. So I'm going to tell you this right now. Just work little bits at a time. Don't overwork. Don't listen to all of the nonsense. It's not going to be helpful for you. And it's actually going to hurt your career. It's going to hurt who you are. And if it looks like other people are getting ahead, you don't understand the backstory behind things. You don't understand what's actually going on. You will, A, it's often publishing in different areas. B, that there is connections, all those kind of things that you just can't see. So long story short, one little day at a time, one little step at a time will get you there. And if you do that repeatedly, you'll have some amazing things that happen to you. If you get caught up and you start listening to all of the nonsense that's out there, and it's just absolute nonsense, you can't escape it. It's just nonsense everywhere. You go online, it's nonsense of people saying how hard they work and all this kind of stuff. You go talk to colleagues, it's what they're going to say. That is the predominant conversation. Um, it it is, and it's harmful, and it's going to eat you up, and it's just based on anxiety. It's just based on insecurities. It's not based on anything real. I know that because I see it and I live it every day. All right. Take care. Have a wonderful day.